All right, we're good.
Okay, take two. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for the second time here, and now it is being recorded. We are ready to go. Randy?
Dr. Smith,
Here.
Dr. McBride, Ms. Riaz,
Here.
Dr. Garza,
Here.
Dr. Hendricks,
Here.
Dr. Hubner,
Here.
Bishop Hankerson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Let's start out. I know that, I think you're ready to talk about
Sure. We're ready to go.
a couple of these things before Scott gets here. So thanks for being here, Randy, Darby, Liz, and Charla.
I'm Sarah
Yeah,
Shaw.
good to introduce you. I don't know if y'all know it's our new change manager.
Okay.
Mr. Cynthia Shaw.
Yes, I'm
She's
Sarah
taking over that
Shaw.
position.
Sansera.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so you've been here, this is our new change management coordinator, replacing Tony Weaver. Can you tell us a little bit more about, you've been here at the jail for a couple decades, haven't you? And
I've been here for 26 years. I started as a correctional officer, and then I was promoted to a case manager, and then a case manager lead, and then I was given this opportunity to be a coordinator.
okay, great. And do you have a particular charge in terms of what change you'll be managing or facilitating?
Well, it's still, dealing with different issues and concerns that the residents may have, that custody staff may have, that the medical department has. I also deal with, I'm helping sort and complete the women's leadership program that Mr. Andrews has started. So I'm working on that also to start a female leadership program
Okay,
for the female officers.
okay, good. Okay, thanks for joining us. All right, let's start out with an update on voting at the jail. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, we're real excited about the success of the voting program that we actually initiated last August. I think in August we had about 30 residents that voted. Learning from that experience, we initiated a registration process. We registered all the residents that were unregistered that wanted to participate in the election. That number was slightly over 100. And then we're happy to say that we did the absentee voting here at the jail with the cooperation and the assistance of the election authority. And we had 55 residents choose to vote. So it was up from what we had in August. And the election authority was kind enough also to extend the opportunity to our staff that were registered voters here in St. Louis County to vote as well. And there was 30 of those. So we, just prior to the election, more than 85 people were allowed to vote and did vote, and their votes were cast and counted. Also, I'd like to thank Deputy Director Howard. He provided the security that day and made sure that all the inmates were escorted properly and timely. It went off without a flaw, and we look forward to this program being better in the future.
That's great. Well, thanks for making it happen. Just to clarify and stress for anyone in the public who's watching, the vast majority of residents at the facility, I think about 98%, have not been convicted of anything yet. Therefore, they're eligible to vote, except for this small, 2 or 3% that are serving time post-conviction here. So
that's a great point. There's protocols.
Yeah.
There's protocols in place both with our security department to ensure that, and the election authority has those protocols in place as well. So they're online. So it's a two-step verification process so that to make sure that only eligible individuals are allowed to vote.
Good. Thank you for clarifying that. I know there was some interest from the board on that issue. Are there questions related to the voting process here at the facility? Okay, I want to take advantage of that theme of elections to note the outcomes countywide, which county executive Page was reelected, one of the first things he did when he first came to into his position as county executive was reconstitute this board that we're all on. And he reconstituted the board in large part due to the 5 deaths that had taken place at the facility in the preceding, I think, 6 months in late, I guess, 2018 and early 2019. So we are a little concerned that we haven't learned more about the cause of the last death that happened a few months ago here in the jail, and we had requested to have that added to the agenda, and that was removed, presumably by the county counselor's office. So if they want to explain why, then we're ready to hear that. I've subsequently learned that there's no real new news. There are no labs available yet, no toxicology reports available yet. But I am wondering why that was struck from our request. So if there's someone who could enlighten us.
Hi, Jeff, this is Laura. I'm from the county counselor's office. I can tell you that it was not our decision to remove that from the agenda. My understanding
Can you speak a little bit louder? We're trying to hear you.
Sure, sorry. I was saying that it was not the county counselor's office's decision to remove that from the agenda. My understanding is that it was removed simply because there was nothing to report. My office would not, of course, get involved until there was litigation or pre-litigation activities started. And once that happens, of course, we're happy to provide an update. Because it's litigation oriented, it would have to be a closed session, but we're always happy to provide those updates if you want.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry if that was an erroneous assumption. But one thing I do want to, good morning. Yeah. One thing that there is interest on the board in doing, and we'll make sure that is, I hope we can all agree to add it as an item for the mid-December meeting, is to work with you perhaps in advance of that meeting, Laura, and the county counselor's office, because we want to get clarity as a board on our exact role in terms of looking at, helping be a watchdog and the public's eye on any adverse incidents that take place here at the facility. So we want to get some more clarity on that.
Sure, I can provide. Are you thinking a closed session kind of Q&A, or what are you picturing?
Well, I'm picturing two things kind of on parallel tracks, and I'm open to input from other board members on this. I'm picturing in open session a sort of formalization of our exact role in helping ensure the public that they can be confident in what is happening in the facility, particularly as it relates to adverse events here. And then perhaps in closed session, an update on anything pertinent to the most recent death that, I've been told both by you and by staff at the facility that there is indeed no substantive update right now.
That is my understanding as well.
Are there any board members? So that's, doing my best to distill concerns from the board. Would that be an appropriate kind of path forward to have a dual conversation at the next board meeting, part of it in open session and part in closed session related to the death if there are matters that cannot be discussed in the public? Dr. Garza, I know you had.
Dr. Garza. No. Yep.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you did a good job summarizing some of the issues that I had, and I think some other board members had. And really, I think it's about process. It's what is the process when an adverse event happens, is specifically to our position on the board. What can and can't we be allowed to see or to discuss, and then how does that process flow, whether it's an open session or in a closed session environment. And I would like to or at least suggest that when there is a significant adverse event, and you can define that however you need to be, and maybe that needs to be defined, is that there's a process for discussing those or getting updates on those in whatever session is appropriate. But it should at least be a standing item somewhere so that it's not an ad hoc issue. So my main issue is the process. So and I don't know if we have a policy or a process on when this event happens. This is what we do, and this is how it's adjudicated or how it's dealt with. So that's my main interest, Jeff, because I feel sometimes it's a little bit not as coordinated as it needs to be. I guess that's a good way to put it. That's all I have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with Valerie Nelson's exit, she had taken a lead role here in kind of informing, me kind of privately about things that were going on. With her no longer being here, I think it's a good opportunity for all of us to put a process in place that will outlast any particular, staff person and outlast any particular advisory board member as well. So let's work over the next few weeks jointly between the board and corrections leadership and corrections medicine leadership to make sure that we have something that we can present. Is that okay? At the next meeting for just sort of a standardized process. And then in closed session, perhaps we can get an update on this particular event, if there is one. As I understand it, it may take a few more months before we have any information on the lab's toxicology reports. But I would like to, I guess, go on the record with the, I hope, approval of the board. I don't think we need to do it formally, but if you object to what I'm saying, just speak up. Until we get those results, I'd like to request today that we have a closed session update at each board meeting until we do get those results.
Jeff, I would concur with that, and I would suggest that perhaps that that work may be delegated to the health subcommittee that is recently formed. Does that sound?
That sounds perfect. I think you guys are slated to meet either next week or the week after that. Penny emailed me, so I think that's Liz, Scott, Alex, Nina, and Tim can work on that and in consultation with the county counselor's office, I assume, to ensure that everything is, legal. Okay. Thank you for, okay, I think we're good on that unless there's anything else from the board or anyone here.
This is Dr. Ulrich. I'd be happy to be on that health committee as well, if that helps, because I would like to, get my input. There are privacy issues. There's a lot of health content there, so that it really is something we need some direction on and develop that process. So if I can be of help to that subcommittee, I guess you have, I'd be happy to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will, can you make a note to Penny to include Dr. Henricks? This is the inaugural meeting of that subcommittee, Dr. Henricks, so you haven't missed anything yet, but I apologize for the oversight and not inviting you to join that, because I do think you're, obviously well suited to add value there. So yeah, we'll make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we are going to talk about National Apprenticeship Week.
And also, Jeff, just wanted to add, I was listening in by phone after leaving my doctor's appointment. I had trouble remoting in also. And just to add to Randy's comments about voting, this is just not something that we just did as an event.
Yeah.
They have on their tablets information about how to register, and so everyone that's coming into jail will have access to that information, and hopefully when they're released, will continue to follow up on that responsibility that they have. So I was really excited to see that the staff were able to vote here on site.
So maybe this is a dumb question. Are there mechanisms for them to learn more about the candidates?
That information was provided, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
So National Apprenticeship Week is this week, and we are the only corrections agency in the state of Missouri that has a Department of Labor certified apprenticeship program for corrections officers. Since that process started last November, we have 76 apprentices. Some have completed that now, and all are eligible for a $500 incentive through the state expansion grant for apprenticeship. They'll be receiving that incentive when they complete their probationary period. So just want to point out how important it is that the training that we have here is meeting Department of Labor standards, and that's a very extensive process.
That's good.
That's good.
Any questions about Apprenticeship Week? Okay. Now a report from the Programming and Reentry Preparation Subcommittee. So we had a really great, hour-plus meeting, Bishop Hankerson and myself and Scott, and talked a lot about the various bits of programming that have been introduced in the last year at the facility. I think clearly with your background, this is a passion of yours, and I think it's something you've spent an admirable amount of time working on, and we appreciate that. I think the main, one main concern that we raised was that in your zeal to provide lots of different opportunities, programming opportunities, we want to make sure that given finite resources to do this, that we put those resources into the most effective mechanisms to help people, reenter and be successful. And so we asked you about the tracking, the data that you're keeping, and I was actually pleasantly surprised, I think, to get the answer. So do you want to kind of explain to the rest of the board and the public what you're doing to try to analyze, going forward in a way that the jail has never done before, the efficacy of programming in reducing recidivism?
Yeah, so we have a strategic plan that we're implementing. Reentry is one of the key components there. And our IT department for the county has worked with Regis to set up a process.
So can you explain to everyone, I think some people will know what Regis is, but not everybody.
So Regis is the regional law enforcement criminal history records agency. So they compile information on rearrests. They are connected to the Missouri Uniform Law Enforcement System and then also the National Crime Information Center. So if someone has an arrest anywhere in the United States, they'll have that information. They pass on computer notification when someone that's under supervision or under an authority have an arrest also. And so they also created the IJMS system, which is the jail management system here. So in partnership with them, we've created a process so that all attendance of training programs is being recorded now. and also all staff training for that matter. But we are able now to be able to provide outcome data in terms of who's participating, whether they completed, and we also are working with Regis to establish a process to determine if they're arrested again, and also we'll be tracking whether they return to the jail. So we have.
So, and you told us something that was like pretty shocking. I mean, I wasn't totally shocked, but I mean, it's pretty disturbing that there's been many people at the facility that have been back 40 or 50 times, right? So that obviously tells us that we have a lot of challenges and opportunities to try to figure out what kind of programming can help some of these people who's, you know, basically spending their life in and out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to, we also have some evaluation of the programs, the feedback from the residents that are participating, but this is why it's so important.
Tell us about that. So do they do like a formal like exit survey when they finish the programs, or what?
That'll be part of the strategic planning that's being developed now, and the strategic planning division for the county is working with us on how to best accomplish that. But the fourth criteria we have are that the program be evidence-based, which is consistent with what the advisory board's recommending. So that process by itself takes some time before we'll actually be able to get the data that we need to measure that.
Yeah, it'll probably be a couple of years to figure out what's working and what's not working, because we need more time to watch different people take different programs, and then 12 months probably minimum to see if they stay out of the jail or state prisons, or, you know, or don't get rearrested afterwards. So the main, kind of one of our big takeaways, Bishop, feel free to just interject here whenever you like. But I think one of our main takeaways was that the jail leadership is going to try to be pretty intentional about aligning people's length of stay, you know, trying to find the sweet spot between, you know, how long people have to take programs and what programs they're interested in and that could benefit them, right? You can't put someone who's going to get out in 10 days in a 2-month, you know, how long is choices?
Yeah.
90 days.
90 days, right? So they're not appropriate for, you know, so what could we do in 1 week for someone who we know has an out date, you know, coming up? You know, so just figuring out ways, and that's what I guess the case managers on each floor, are they the people charged with making those decisions or helping facilitate those decisions?
Yeah, so case managers are working with each resident, but we also have programs that are different lengths. So just as choices is 90 days, we have some that are much shorter. And so, for example, we had the Building Union Diversity come in for a 1-day session, and they learned about 4 different unions and heard from people with criminal histories that are working for them. And then there's a process on the tablet that they can enroll for that program prior to release. So that doesn't take much time. The key here is we have to identify what projected release dates are. And we have many different initiatives here that are all going to be some, for example, Relink are being done at the arraignment phase. They're sharing information about resources so that even if the person is released immediately, they'll have that access. Others will be based on people's abilities. So we have some that can't read and write, so there's classes to address that. We have some college preparatory classes, and then in January we'll actually have college credit classes.
Bishop Hankerson, I know it's an area of interest for you, and we had a productive call yesterday. Do you have anything to add to some of the things that we've talked about?
Yeah, very productive call and meeting yesterday, and the programs, I have the email of the programs that were mentioned in yesterday's meeting, and it's just, like I said yesterday, wonderful, all the different options that inmates have. I brought up 2 concerns, and I'm appreciative that those are being looked into as well. And that is, you can have all of these programs, but how is it that the inmates are being presented with this information? Because like you stated, the stats were astounding that 75% of the individuals will be turned, well, maybe that's not the best word to use, but they will return back to the streets of St. Louis, really to the same environment. And so I brought up yesterday that along with all the great programs like the GED, the culinary training, et cetera, if we could add the military option, because that provides some type of outlet as far as not only discipline, but a change of environment, because a person can have all of those wonderful opportunities that will lead to a better life and lead to not returning back to the jail. But if you go back to the same environment around the same individuals, I know that a person can succeed regardless of their environment, but for your average person, that will affect their behavior, their actions. And like you stated, I was shocked to hear that there are some inmates that have come back to the facility 40 and 50 times. So I think that's a good direction, a great direction, as a matter of fact, that we're going, but we really want to push for those inmates to get involved and to provide options to get them out of the same environment that they've came from.
So if it's okay with you as my collaborator on the committee, Bishop, I'd like to, maybe schedule quarterly committee meetings so that we can just get kind of quarterly updates on the progress of both the offerings, the enrollments in the offerings, and the setup of the structure for data tracking for people, who leave. Is that fair?
That's fine. There was one question I had yesterday, and maybe I didn't articulate that too well, and maybe the rest of the board would benefit from hearing this, but are these programs mandated for an inmate, or is this an option? When you come in, is there a mandate that you must enroll in something, or is that pretty much an option that if I don't want to get involved, well, not me, but if a person doesn't want to get involved at all, do they have that liberty to not be involved in any of those programs?
Well, right now, we don't have the capacity to provide the programs for everyone, so they are voluntary. Even there's other reasons as to why they would be voluntary, but the tablet is provided to each resident, and they do have access to many educational and training programs on the tablet. Over 80,000 hours of educational programs have been completed already since the tablets were implemented back in November.
Wow. Could you provide, at least the subcommittee, and I think the whole board would probably be interested, can the Securus that does the tablets, can they give us a breakdown of those 80,000 hours? I would just be very curious as to which offerings on the tablets are most attractive to people.
Definitely. We can have that update next month.
That would be great. That would be great.
I have a question on the tablet now. Maybe I should ask that earlier in our meetings. This is a computer tablet that each inmate receives, and is that something that they can just doodle or search, or what is the purpose of the tablets, and what are they allowed to search out, and what are they searching out?
So they actually can make phone calls and email family members, and they have access to these tablets 21 hours per day. They can keep that in their cell. So instead of having to sign up for a public telephone, they now have the ability to communicate more readily with their family. There's an announcement link on this which provides access to some of the dates for the programs, for example, that were mentioned, the voting registration, any events that they can learn about there. And there are a variety of different educational programs. The public library system here has over 50 different programs that are available on the tablet. There is entertainment, movies, music, and many books that they can read as well. So I think the best thing for us to do would be to provide a presentation for the board next month.
I think that would be great. And one thing, just to reassure you, you talked about what are they searching, and they're not able to go online and just search anything on the tablet. There's you know, there's offering lots of different choices in terms of their offerings, but those are all controlled, so they can't go and visit unhealthy websites or be searching for just anything.
Right, that's right. And so it also allows people to see pictures of birthdays and events with their family, but those are screened before they're received.
All right, that's all I've got in terms of that subcommittee report. Unless you have anything else, we'll move on. Okay, any questions from any board members about that committee, that subcommittee work? Okay, thank you. Staffing update. I think it's not been a great couple weeks. I think like we've lost several people from the facility in the last. So can you share, you know, one of the things we had talked about was trying to get as much information as we could from people who are departing to understand why?
So this is an area that we can definitely use the board's help in getting, finding creative ways to get information out about the opportunities for employment here. So I ask each of you to continue to do that. We have 5 resignations in the past 2 weeks. 2 have gone, I understand, to police departments. Others have gone to jobs such as a hospital. Really
doing like private security at a hospital, or?
Yes.
Okay.
One, and then another working in a different position in a hospital. So there are a lot of opportunities out there now that we need to stay competitive on our wages, and there are great benefits here in the county. So we also are doing some things to incentivize employee retention. We started this last year, but there's a longevity pay that's being provided to anyone that has 84 months or longer, and that will be done 1 month each year. It's $5 for each month that they've worked. So we're working on posting on Facebook, other social media type events. We have attended 4 career fairs in the past month, and we also have hiring events every 2 weeks here in the jail. We've actually been accepting applications and conducting interviews now when anyone will come, though. So we had a class that just started this week with 4. We had 3 people that just finished the last class that have gone up to the floor. So even though we've lost some staff, and we did lose some others for conduct issues and attendance, but we're really, at this point, treading water again, so we need to get back to the point where and we have steadily increased. I should mention that since November, we've steadily increased about 10 staff per month, so we just need to continue that progress.
How understaffed are we right now?
I think we still have about 45 open positions now for corrections officer. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have made more progress in that area. So the one thing to mention as well is so as you hire 70 people, you have to have supervisors to supervise the 70, which creates additional openings. So I think maybe one of the charts will show the progression for recruitment. We're making much better progress than most jails and other facilities, and I've actually been consulted from places like Milwaukee, Wisconsin about our efforts here. So I'm very proud of the work of the recruitment committee. They've done an excellent job.
Who's the recruitment committee?
Randy can share that with you.
There's several of us. Captain Drews, who's our canine officer. The training department mostly is part of the recruitment because obviously we use that as a vetting option as well. So when we're bringing people in, they're trying to identify people that seem like they'd be a good fit. We have someone from administration, actually a couple people from administration that serve on our committee as well. Major Jet, long-term commander, is on our committee. And we just try to meet on a weekly basis, brainstorm, identify job fairs, identify ways to get the information out to the public. And we're also working in correlation with the communications department that the county now has. And then they're working with us to get our information on their sites, as well as train us on other applications that are available.
Thank you. Thanks for the, I don't think we've talked about the recruitment committee at any board meetings yet, so I wasn't aware of that. I knew you were doing a lot, but I didn't know that you had formalized it and you were meeting weekly and you were, had developed, a bunch of strategies out of that committee, so that's helpful. All right, well, we would be interested. It's good. I would be interested. I think I'm probably speaking for the board. I like knowing, it's interesting to know where people are leaving and going to, but I'd love more texture to understand, like, okay, I know you're going for another job. Are you going because you want more money? Are you going because you want different hours? Are you going because you no longer want to work in a prison or in a jail? Are you going because there was some personnel issue, or some problem here, in a facility? Are you going because, there was a particular incident with a resident? Like, I'm just interested. So, are we getting any of that texture?
We've implemented an exit survey within the past month, and so, but we are discussing with each person that's leaving as to why they're leaving, and there have been some that had issues with scheduling that we've been able to resolve and retain them. So I think the ones that we mentioned today are primarily based on pay and career advancement. But they're always, with a shift like this, with 3 shifts, challenges that people face coming out of the pandemic, we've got to, I think we've encouraged staff to be more understanding about challenges that people face and the schedule that they need. At this point, we're really needing people for all shifts, so that presents its own challenges, just making sure that we're able to cover those posts when there's movement.
All right, any other questions about staffing? Okay, I know we had a request for an update on Medicaid enrollment.
Yes, so we've registered about 85% of we've made sure that about 85% of these residents have Medicaid, have registered for Medicaid. Some already had Medicaid and didn't even realize that they did, that Liz shared with me.
Correct.
So the great thing about this is they'll have access to medical care when they're released, but also if they are taken to an emergency room for 24 hours, then that can be reinitiated and started based on the expansion of Medicaid. So instead of it being canceled when they come into confinement, now it's just suspended. It can be reactivated. So that'll be, financially, it'll be a good thing as well for the county.
Yeah, that's good. I think, was it Alex, was it you, or was it Tim, or maybe it was Beth, I can't remember, who had asked about Medicaid enrollment?
Yeah, it was Tim.
I think it was Tim.
Okay. All right, any questions from any board members on that? All right. CGL recommendations update. So part of what we did as on our subcommittee was go through some of the reentry stuff through the CGL recommendation lens. So we've already covered a bit of that, but you have helpfully, Randy, have you been the point person on this?
Actually, it's been a team effort.
Okay.
Director Howard has taken some items, I've taken some, and so has the director, and of course Liz for the health department.
Okay, do the 4 of you then want to just kind of jointly present on your sections that your sections of the recommendations that you guys have been tracking, implementation of
I'll be happy to start
okay.
from my section. I think I believe it was items 1 and 3, which was the unit manager position. That's pretty much in place now. Obviously, as the Director Anders has mentioned numerous times in the past, a lot of these changes will occur through attrition, but the job definition in accordance with CGL is complete. It's gone through the civil service process, and so that actually is now complete. I believe it's item 26 on the list that is provided.
And I think the whole board has seen this spreadsheet that Randy is working from, which is the all the different recommendations and then the status of each recommendation. So if for any reason you can't find that, then let us know, and I'm sure Scott and Randy will be happy to resend that out to everybody. Go ahead, sorry.
Yes, and I was talking as though you had the spreadsheet. Just for your notes, if you want to look at them, item 26 is in regard to scheduling software for the facility. We've been working on that actually for about 3 months now. We're working with IT. We have 4 demonstrations scheduled in the upcoming month, so we're excited about getting that ball rolling. Item 41 is a staff grooming policy that CGL recommended. That's been a lengthy process as well. We do have a policy returned to us from the legal department that we'll be bringing up in one of our executive meetings here shortly to go over that, to get that implemented. And then that's everything on my list. Do you have an update? I'm sorry to blindside you like that.
I just updated this morning when Scott sent it to me. And so basically, medical is focusing on our staffing crisis at the moment. I acknowledged the recommendations that they had made, but I don't have anything as far as any concrete updates as far as it's 2023, 24. We will be working on some of those, but in order to work on their recommendations, you have to have appropriate staff.
Yeah. So one thing I'm just hearing from other, business folks is that finally the, the salaries for traveling nurses have come back some to some semblance of normalcy from where they were, near the height of the pandemic. Is that helping us be, I know we're still not competitive, but is that helping at all, or are you feeling that at all?
Well, just DPH employees' applications, there aren't any. So that's besides that. I'm working with staffing agencies, and it's the staffing agencies that are not able to compete to get the nurses to send to us in order to do.
Right.
So I've got 7 to 8 staffing agencies working on recruitment, trying to bring in LPNs and RNs into our space and recruiting them to join their organization to then send to us.
So let me speak candidly for a minute, because I don't really care anymore about my own self, from a political perspective. Dr. Khan was not able to go in front of the council with credibility. And now we have Dr. Hendricks, who may be able to do that. And we need to have someone go to the council and explain if DPH is literally not getting any applications. You shouldn't have to spend all your time going from this staffing agency to that staffing agency and just relying. We should have a pay scale in this county that is somewhere close to the reality of the market, so that we don't put our leadership, here in a constant bind of having to just, being at the whims of external staffing agencies. We're a government agency. We should have more stability than that.
Well, Dr. Heinrichs can speak on what efforts he has done.
Yeah, I wasn't criticizing Dr. Heinrichs.
Right.
I was saying I think we
You're
need,
absolutely correct.
now that we have a new opportunity to present a new face to our county government, you know, that has, you know, more credibility than the last person who was, you know, who would have been charged with making these, you know, providing this information. I really hope that Dr. Heinrichs, you will have a platform and an opportunity to do that in coming weeks.
Well, we've actually, just to update everybody, we had to present our budget to the county council. This was about 2 weeks ago. And this came up as a big push in our regard. We're asking for an 8% increase in our budget, primarily because of contract staffing and the added expenses to keep corrections going, to keep the clinics going. So that was presented. We've also been able to get the ear of county human resources to look at what we're faced with without waiting for the conclusion of a pay study, which evidently they have been in the midst of for at least 2 or 3 months and may not finish until 2 or 3 months from now. We've presented to them that St. Louis Community College has a workforce development committee that does a yearly pay study, basically, and we've made them aware that our pay scale is grossly under those particular metrics as well. So we've actually gotten them to relook at the proposal we actually sent 2 months ago to HR to allow us to have a higher pay scale to recruit people with. And they're promising they're relooking at that. Sue Daniels, who's actually retiring after December, is, I think, fairly passionate about this now, to have this relooked at apart from their pay study. It may depend, obviously, in part on whether the county council gives us our budget, which hasn't been decided yet. But we're really pushing this whole facet because it is a crisis, not only for corrections, but for our clinics. We've had resignations at the clinics level as well. Everybody that has the nurse manager that has put in her resignation to corrections, I've talked to several times. It's kind of an exit interview, and basically the main issue is pay, quality of life. She wants her weekends back. She's got an ill family member that she wants to attend to. So there are clearly other issues beyond pay, but this is clearly something that we want to focus on and we want to push. So you have my full support, the Department of Public Health's full support, but we are somewhat at the behest of the county council on some of this.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't meaning to suggest that you're not doing anything.
Oh, I mean, it's very,
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to let everybody know what we are doing.
Yeah, I mean, and I just, I hope that we're able to, you know, frame that to them to help them understand that the disparity, the amount that we're having to pay staffing agencies is so dramatically, so much higher.
4 times higher.
4 times higher than if we could just get our base pay for those positions up, you know, 20-25% and actually get some applications for full-time people in, then it would, you know, what we're doing is just so pound foolish, right? Penny wise, pound, yeah, I mean,
Totally
you know,
agree. Totally agree.
So if there's a way to kind of really, in a stark, you know, graph, or, you know, for visual learners to let them see that, you know, raising that base pay could, are there other public sector agencies that pay higher in the region for these positions?
That I don't know.
Okay. Because you know, of course they're going to say, well, we're never going to be able to pay what the private market pays. But if we could show that there's other public sector agencies that we're short of, that was an effective strategy in helping get the CO pay raise a year ago. So maybe, if, you know, emulating that might be helpful. I don't know, but I hate hearing how frustrated you are.
It's a challenge every day.
Yeah. Okay, Darby.
Oh, yes. There were several issues in regards to security that came out of the CGL recommendations, and a lot we have completed. One being as far as when we were in our leadership focus meetings, that we any policy changes and operational changes are properly filtered down to the frontline staff. So that is now part of policy. The leadership rounds from our unit managers and majors to make sure information is, properly passed down. And we learned that some people don't read their emails, so we got to make sure we do follow up. We do rounds, we pull people to the side, we constantly mentoring and coaching. So that's part of that. Create specific assignments as FTIs for the field training officers to give to new staff. So that's been worked on with the training department to make sure that they are getting what they need as far as new officers. So that's been complete. That's item, I'm sorry. One was item 9, let's see, 14 and item 17, 15 and 17, sorry. Okay, another item we had, item 33, develop a policy, let me go back here, I'm sorry. Item 28, establish clear distinction in rules and applications being planned when it comes to use of force. Just let that whole use of force continuum that we purely have that applies to items 28 and 29. We've had 2 of our majors to go receive some specialized training on some best practices as the use of force is a big thing in jails and police departments across the country. So we're looking to revise and kind of come at our use of force current policy to change it more of a response to subject behavior. It just sounds more politically correct than saying that use of force. So we're rewriting that. They've even got specialized training down in Nashville, where we'll be working with the medical department, getting them involved, and others as we rewrite this current policy. That's been worked on, and our goal is to have that completed by the first of the year. So it's a big thing. It's going to require training because we're changing our whole module. So that's currently been worked on it. And pretty much everything else, as far as those being in the administrative SEG areas, being able to step down units, not leave them up there for long periods of time. We've been working with our classification team. We have regular meetings to go over, because a lot of people that are in admin segregation come to have mental health issues. They have a hard time adjusting into a regular populated area. Some can be taken advantage of. So we want to put those people in particular risk. So we have to constantly understand that some people may not be able to fit into a regular populated area. So they will be in what we call a step-down unit, where they come out at minimal time at a minimum amount of inmates out at a time. So let's see. Okay. And that kind of sums it up. We're moving forward as far as all the different recommendations. Some have been implemented and are a part of policy now. But the biggest one is our use of force is the biggest one, because like I said, we're changing the whole module on that. It will include more of medical, and medical has been assisted us as we do get into those situations to come and evaluate a situation, to send a mental health person over to see if they could diffuse incidents prior to any initiation of use of force. We appreciate what they've been doing so far with us.
Good to hear. All right. Any questions on CGL recommendations? Well, I appreciate that all of you are, that we're not wasting the taxpayers' dollar, everything that was spent on that, where that's so often in government, these reports just go on a shelf, and watching you guys actually implement, these recommendations. They looked at 300 jails, and so they ought to know. So I'm glad we're learning from it and operationalizing it. All right, we don't have Aaron with us because he's on paternity leave, but we do have Liz to give us a corrections medicine dashboard. Aaron will be back next month.
Well, I won't do the dashboard. I only have a COVID update.
Okay.
All right. So since March of 2020, we've given close to 24,000 COVID tests with 600 positives. And unfortunately, we have a small little outbreak in one of our pods. So we have 30 COVID positive in residents at this particular moment. only 3 out of those have some symptoms, and they are mild symptoms. But we've ordered Paxlovid, the medication, in order to administer to anybody who's willing to take the medication to potentially assist with any type of symptoms that they may be having with COVID. We've locked down the pods and doing our following protocol in order to contain that.
Do you know what, how many of the 30 were vaccinated? I'm just curious.
Oh, I didn't do any statistical stuff.
Okay, okay. But the fact that 27 of the 30 have
Yeah.
not symptomatic is a good sign.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is. And we're continuing to offer flu vaccines, COVID vaccines for our population here in order to help with the upcoming flu season. It is expected, Dr. Davis believes that it will be a harsh winter and that we could expect potentially flu and COVID from individuals coming into the facility. Just as the community needs to make sure they get their flu shot and their COVID boosters in order to protect them this winter and the season. And we encourage all staff members to stay home if they don't feel well and take care of themselves. Get tested at our county facilities.
Wear your mask.
And wear your mask.
Sorry.
You know. So.
I did just get my flu shot and my COVID, and my second COVID booster at the same time. Knocked them both out.
Yes. Very good.
Adulting this week. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. We will get the full dashboard next month upon Aaron's return. I want to stress to all board members that we're always welcome inside the facility to look into any of these things kind of more closely that we're asking about. I know Nina got a chance to have her first visit this week. Nina, do you have any thoughts or anything that you want to kind of let the public know about what you saw?
Yeah, I had a great tour with Director Anders, and I was quite impressed with the quick implementation of the CGL report. And I really look forward to seeing the rest of the recommendations become implemented. And I do think with the leadership that we have in the jail right now that it likely will happen.
Good, good, thanks. And Beth, I know you're here all the time.
Well, I was going to say that we are really excited that the MacArthur Foundation will be in town for the first time since COVID, the last week of November, the first week of December. So they will be in here looking at the jail as well. So that's exciting, and to kind of show off all the work that we've done. So I'll report back, excuse me.
Great, great. And Bishop, let us know if you want to come in and do a deep dive. I know the holidays are busy, but the leadership here, I know, does their best to make themselves available when you're available. So let us know.
Absolutely. Now, just for clarity, you're saying I could really stop in anytime?
I mean, I mean, you can't guarantee they'll all be here, but I'm sure one or two of them will definitely be here to give you a tour, and usually all of them. But all right. Is there any public comment?
None.
No public comment.
No public comment.
Okay. So setting the next board meeting, like in November, we are moving to the third Friday, so that will be the 16th. Oops.
That's correct.
Excuse me. Okay, yeah, that'll be the 16th of December, and then once we get to January, we will move back to the fourth Friday of the month in January. So if there's nothing further,
But
we
just,
can,
just a,
Bishop Hankerson and then Dr. Heinrich.
yeah, just a technical question, because I hate to be late to any meeting. Is there, am I looking in the wrong place for the link? Because I haven't, I don't see it every month, and then I try to use the old link and it says that's invalid. So I don't want to be a pest as far as that's
So
concerned.
Reverend, this is Ray Barnes. So when you get that invitation from WebEx, there'll be two links in there. One is, it says join event, and it should be highlighted in green. That is for the panelist. And so if you click on that, that will take you to that. The secondary link is if you have any problems, and it's also for the public, and then I can let you through that way as well. But join event, the highlighted green one, is the one you want to shoot for every time.
Okay.
And so that email, Bishop, it doesn't come from a person. The email comes from Messenger. It just says Messenger
Generic
at WebEx.
host. Yep.
Messenger.
And so,
okay.
so that may, and it may be that your email catches that in a spam filter. That might happen to some people, but for me, it just shows up as messenger@webex.com, and the subject line is invitation to join web seminar as a panelist, St. Louis County Justice Services Advisory Board meeting.
Okay.
So it's an easy thing that your eyes kind of skip over because it looks like just a piece of, junk mail, but it's not. So.
And when does that come? Does that come the day before, or when does that hit our email?
That comes for me like 5 minutes before the board meeting.
Well, that's when I send a reminder. I also send, when Penny asked me to create it, it's usually 3 to 4 days before the event. And when I create it, I send the invite out as well at that time. And then I try to send a reminder before the start of the meeting the same morning.
Sounds good. If I don't see it, what I'll do is just kind of bug you all a couple days before the meeting so I don't show up late again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Heinrichs?
Yes, I just wanted to, at the last board meeting, we told about kind of a similar crisis in staffing with our psychiatrist at the jail. So I just wanted to give an update on that. We did get a lot of attention from the procurement office to grant us an emergency procurement request to search out for a different psychiatric group to staff corrections, and have been successful in that. We're at the stage where the contract is at the DocuSign stage, and we hope to, with Liz's help, get this particular group that's a group of 6 psychiatrists and about 13 nurse practitioners in the St. Louis area will be joining the corrections medicine staff hopefully next week. And in that regard, they will have a psychiatrist who will be on site 2 days a week, as well as a nurse practitioner for 30 to 40 hours a week on site. So this is actually a big improvement of what we've had before, where our psychiatrist was only doing telemedicine visits at the jail. So I think we've actually got a better model in place that hopefully will start in the next week or so.
That's really good to hear. Really good to hear. Thank you, Dr. Heinrichs, for that update. Dr. Garza, any feedback on that?
Sorry, I was reaching for my mute button. No, that's great news to hear. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. With nothing else before us, I will move to adjourn. All those in favor? Yes.
Jeff,
I guess there is
sorry,
something else.
Laura. Did you want to approve last month's meeting minutes?
We don't have them.
Yeah, we that was not on the agenda because they have not been sent to us. So I presume we'll have to approve the October meeting minutes when we approve the November meeting minutes in December.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks for the catch. Thanks, Randy, for subbing in and taking good notes through the meeting. even as you presented at times. Thanks, everybody, for all the work you do every day. Have a great Thanksgiving. And all those who are in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Aye.